message me in the chats. So without further ado, I'm actually going to hand it over to our colleagues at Georgia State University to introduce themselves and talk a little bit about the Leadership Academy. Andy?
Hi, I'm Andy Roach, and I'm here with my colleague Mark Crenshaw. Mark, do you want to say hello?
Hey, good afternoon, y'all. Mark Crenshaw. I am uh, here at Georgia State University in Atlanta. I work with the UCED and the land, and great to be on.
So, I'm a professor in the Department of Counseling and Psychological Services here at Georgia State University. I've worked with the LAND program and with the UCED as an affiliate faculty member since the very beginning of the CLD, our UCED being here at Georgia State. And both Mark and I have been involved in the AUCD Leadership Academy from its inception. So we are really excited to talk about this project because I know we both agree it's sort of the highlight of our year each June to do the Leadership Academy. So today we want to talk a little bit about the Academy and then also about sort of the application process. So next slide. So first I want to introduce you to some of the other members of our leadership team for the Leadership Academy. So our sort of lead facilitator is Matthew Williams, and he is, among other things, right now a senior director or senior vice president for community development and marketing and communication at Groundswell Community Power and Principle, which is essentially a nonprofit that's doing work in lots of areas, including renewable energy. But he's also been president of a seminary and head of a large nonprofit that does professional development for leaders, and he's just an exceptional facilitator, and we are so lucky to have had him with us every year since the beginning. And I know you are going to be excited to meet him. That's my high school picture there. Uh, so don't look too closely at that. Although I do have total touch-up turned on Zoom. So anyway, so that's me. There's Mark, assistant director at our UCED here at Georgia State. And Jerry Flores is somewhere in the room. And we are just so lucky to have her. She's both an alum, but now just a really important part of our faculty and leadership team. She says she's here in the chat, and we are just, you'll hear from her in a little bit, but she has um, I can't remember which year it was that she did the Leadership Academy, but after she came the first time, we were like, we got to have her come back over and over and over again. So we've been really lucky. 2018, she says, okay. And then a really, I think, notable feature of our academy is that we have graphic facilitation by Brittany Curry. And if you've not experienced really good graphic facilitation before, it is sort of a gift and an art. And Brittany just does a wonderful job of capturing the week's sort of programming and interactions and things that people share. And we review that every day. It's up in the meeting room when we're meeting, but you'll also get all of the graphics at the end of the week. We'll send you a PDF of all the graphic facilitation that she's done. And it's really, I think, a nice adjunct to any other records, of things that are passed out or notes. Not that this is really a note-taking sort of experience, but it's a good record of the places we've been and the things that have been shared. Next slide. So, what are we going to talk about today? We'll talk a little bit about what participants are going to learn, um, and how you're going to learn it. And then we'll hear from a couple of our past participants who will talk about the experience of the Leadership Academy. Um, we'll talk some about the application process, so how you'll apply. And hopefully we'll have a little bit of time at the end for for a Q&A session where we address any sort of lingering sort of questions about this process. So on the next slide, I'm going to hand it over to Mark.
That's great. So the next slides in the red set of slides, we're going to talk about sort of the content of the Leadership Academy. And so, Jackie, if you want to go to the next one. Um, when we first began to think about what a Leadership Academy would look like, these are we had opportunity to talk to leaders in disability organizations and lots of self advocates about their experience. And sort of formation for leadership. And so these components really came out of those conversations about what would be important that people who were thinking about leadership in disability and in the disability community sort of learned. And so one of the key components is a real dive into kind of the history um, of of our movements around policy and advocacy and sort of understanding the history of these movements. And we do that in service of helping you as future leaders and helping participants as future leaders um, gain an understanding of their position um, within the work, right? So, we sort of work hard to make sure that folks leave with a clear idea of the ways that they can contribute to the conversation going forward, and a clear idea of the different ways that leaders engage, right? So it's not simply a conversation about, these are the charismatic leaders who've created um, uh, you know uh, needed change, but to say there are lots of ways that people participate in this work. And so in this segment of the Leadership Academy, we really dive into not only the history and some of the folks who have been seminal in the work, but also with a focus on sort of looking at the different ways that each of us can be engaged in the work going forward in our communities, with our communities and alongside people with disabilities and their families. So next slide. Uh, Another key component of this work is really our work with the from the that comes out of the Center for Courage and Renewal, which was originally the Center for Teacher Formation. Parker Palmer and his colleagues sort of came up with an approach called the circle of trust. And unlike lots of leadership work, we actually do spend a lot of time in a circle having conversation with each other and sort of contemplating together the key takeaways of the experience. And so in that, we want to provide folks an opportunity to sort of have space to think about who they are as a leader and how they bring who they are in terms of their personal and professional identities the to the business of leadership. We want to help folks think about organizational values and sustain an effort towards addressing complex social issues, right? To really think about sort of how do I gain the tools and skills and resources to stay in this work over time. And so, when the Center for Courage and Renewal started, Parker Palmer and his colleagues were concerned about teacher burnout. we're concerned about losing good people in education. And so over time, the center has really focused on, right, how do we help people gain the tools and skills and resources to stay in and continue to do important work. So that's really the focus of that part of the academy, and that is a thread that runs through sort of every day of your experience with us um, uh, during the academy. You want to go to the next slide? Yeah. So, like, part of what we want to do in this with this next bit of content is really think about how we approach doing work together, right? So who needs to be in the room at the table? Whose voices do we need to hear? Whose experience do we need to benefit from? Who do we need to listen to better in terms of creating change in systems over time? And so there's a focus that builds on the last slide to really think about how do we sustain this effort to create organizations that really respond to the needs of community members in powerful ways. And so we're really interested in, as the second bullet says, creating the space where people can discover and act their gifts and resources, right? Where you have an opportunity to say, yes, this is what I can contribute uniquely to this challenge in my community, and these are the people that need to be around in the room with me to help me think about it. And those kinds of things become really important in the context of this. And it really is a focus on you know tools and gifts and skills that each of us bring to this collective task of leading into the future. You want to go to the next slide? There's a real important focus, we think, in the Leadership Academy on discovering your individual strengths. And to do that, we use a tool called the VIA Character Strength Survey. And you've seen other sort of strengths-based assessments. You've probably done them. But we use the VIA specifically because the language around the VIA is pretty understandable by a wide variety of people in the space. And there's been good research from our colleagues at the UCED and the University of Kansas about using the VIA with people with disabilities. And so we're super interested in sort of building on that and creating a common language for our participants around strengths, right? And helping folks take the conversation around strengths back to their organizations, right? So part of it is not only knowing your strengths, but also spotting the strengths in your colleagues, spotting the strengths in the people around you, so that you can say to colleagues, to folks who are on this journey in the work with you, I see this strength in you, and I really appreciate it. It is something, it is something we really need. And so, and it's, that assessment of strengths helps us really think about how we bring together the people who need to be in the conversation to help us get where we're going together. So the VIA is a part of that for us. What we discussed in the red slides, obviously, how we're going to focus on the history of disability rights and that work, and how we're going to use it to help participants connect with their own contributions to the work. How important, we also talked about how important self-reflection and the courage and renewal and circles of trust approaches are to our work in the Leadership Academy. We talked about community alliances, and I ended with some discussion of the VIA character strengths assessment. So Go ahead, Andy.
Sorry, I was muted. So in this set of slides, we're going to talk a little bit about how participants are going to learn, or more broadly, sort of some of the activities and ways that we're going to go about our work together in when you're here. So one of the overriding sorts of values that frameworks we're bringing to this is a desire to use um, components of universal design for learning, or UDL. We're trying to, provide information through multiple means of representation to create different ways for people to express themselves, to take action, and then, to provide multiple access points for engagement in this work. So, essentially allowing people to enter from where they are. Some of the things that we'll do as well is we try to create accessible print materials. So a lot of the concepts and ideas that are taught or talked about in our sessions together, there will be plain language summaries that are provided about those concepts and ideas. We also try to provide resources that go across multiple modalities so that we're providing information, not just in print, but video and audio for people, as well as the graphic facilitation, which presents, a visual, as well as, Brittany as graphic facilitator each day will review what's in the graphics. So there's sort of an oral review as well of what was taught or talked about in a particular session. Next. We will focus on sort of community-centered strategies, right? So we're really focused on looking at tools and strategies that you can take back to collaborate with the people in your sites around, the changes and movements that need to happen to improve services and systems in your context. So we will, do a lot of what I will say sort of active engagement so that people get a chance to sort of practice some of these strategies and talking about them as like in preparation for going back into their context. Next slide. Along those lines, this, is really an experiential, and that doesn't totally capture the nature of our time together. But if Matthew Williams were here, he'd say, this is not one of those sort of corporate sit and listen, take home your giant 3-ring binder of things. This is a very intentional process where we will have a slower pace. There'll be lots of spaciousness in our schedule to make time for not just personal sort of reflection, but also sort of communal or collective sort of discussion and discernment around the issues. We'll break out into small groups and dyads for discussions about different topics to problem solve around some of the challenges in our context as leaders. There's just going to be, a emphasis, I think, on dialogue, exploration, sharing. Another thing that Matthew would say, I'm sort of channeling Matthew today, is that, the smartest person in the room is the room itself, right? And that, to capture that there's a lot of collective wisdom amongst the people in this network, the people who will be coming to the Leadership Academy. And so, unlike some trainings where it would be sort of a didactic, where there's sort of a sage on the stage talking through each day, there will be a lot of time where we are harvesting the wisdom and insight and experiences of the folks that are in the room. And then we work together to come up with sort of a schedule of follow-ups that we're going to do. Some of that includes discussions with a set of other participants called an ally group that will continue throughout the entire year. You'll start meeting with your ally group during the week that we're together, but you will have periodic meetings with those folks throughout the year that will be facilitated. And then also we'll talk about sort of some coaching that will happen within your site. Next slide. So I've already sort of previewed these self-reflection ally groups. So we will form groups of 4 people each, or 4 participants each, during the Academy Week. You'll do some work together during the Academy Week where you talk about some leadership challenges that you're bringing from your own site. And then we'll meet every other month over the course of the year following the in-person Academy session. We'll meet via Zoom. It'll be facilitated by a Leadership Academy faculty member, probably Mark or myself. And we'll meet for about 2 hours every other month to check in on people's progress, on how things are happening in their um, in their context and in their leadership, and to really both be a support for one another, but also to hold space. And we'll talk about how we do this to allow people to do some sort of reflection and then get supported by the group in reflecting on where they're at, what their next steps are, where they're going in their leadership. Next slide.
And the other thing I'll add about those small groups is every year I'm blown away by the ways that they continue collaboration, right? So they sort of continue to find ways to work together. We've had folks in small groups who have developed things together, developed writing, developed sort of community-facing resources together. So lots of the folks over the first 9 years of this, continue to be connected and continue to have these conversations about how they sort of work together to make a difference. And it's really great. So at the end of the 4 meetings with us, they say, "Can we continue to be connected?" And we're like, "Of course you can." Like, we're not going to say, "No, you can't talk to that person again." So in terms of building connections across this national network, that's been a really amazing sort of outgrowth of this as well.
Yeah. We also will encourage you to work with a coach within your site. So this might be a person who's a mentor, or someone who has some leadership experience that you'll meet with periodically over the course of the year to talk about sort of your leadership sort of commitments, goals, the things you're putting into action. And we'll ask you to set up sort of an observation of them in doing leadership in action, as well as have them observe you. And then, we will give some suggestions about other things that you could do in those sessions. But that leadership coaching is, something that we want you to, co-construct with your coach to really meet your needs, right? So different people have done different sorts of things with their leadership coaches. And we're really open to people shaping this in the way that will be most conducive to their growth. Next slide. So what have we just discussed? We talked about sort of universal design for learning and some of the ways we'll integrate that. Including graphic facilitation as one of the supports. Um, we talked about sort of our emphasis on these hyper local or community specific strategies. How this is experiential learning, so not sort of a corporate PD session. That talked a little bit about the ally groups and leadership coaches as sort of ongoing ways to extend some of the learning and growth that starts during the in-person academy. Next slide. Hand it back to Mark.
Cool. Yeah, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So one of the reasons we invited JD to join us on the webinar is because she does a really good job talking about sort of the benefits of the experience for her and what she gained and what it's meant to her to be connected to continue to be connected to the Academy. So I'm going to introduce my colleague from Rochester, New York, JD Flores, and JD, take it away just in terms of sharing about your experience with the Academy over the years.
Good day. I'm gonna say good day because I don't know what time zone everyone is in, and that's like my kryptonite. So I never know what time it is anywhere other than where I'm at. But thank you all for having me. I hope you all are warm and you have water, and there's less ice around you than there is around me. I went to the Leadership Academy in 2018 and I would say I was in a peculiar place in terms of like my career. I would say that my career is like it's still in its like childhood stage. It was definitely like an infant when I participated at the Leadership Academy. And what I truly enjoyed was the opportunity to practice a pause and to reflect at how much I had really accomplished, right? So I could say that it was in an infant stages, but if were hearing the stories that I was telling, obviously it wasn't. Like I was a little more advanced than I was giving myself credit for. But being there for a week long, it gave me a second to kind of pause, to reflect, to think about where I was going, what I was doing, what I wanted to do, to really look at my community, and the people that I worked with every day and who could be my coach, what could they teach me, how much further could I push my goals. But also having those intense conversations and also really being intentional in my listening. So it wasn't even just about what I was saying, it was also about what I was receiving, being able to pause and, told to listen in a certain way. I'm a problem solver by heart. Like I'm an older sister as an eldest daughter. Your goal in life is to problem solve because that's how they raise us to be, right? This is a problem, you fix it. Your little brother couldn't get this together, get him together so that we could get it together. And so that was really different for me. So to be asked to just listen, to just pause, and to not solve the person's problem who was talking to me was really different. So it was something that I kind of took with me. And there was a couple activities that I still participate and I kind of stole and use as my own, and present as kind of my own from this space. I do give credit to AUCD's Leadership Academy, though. I'll be honest, y'all, it's on the slide. It says it's not mine. But I do still practice that pause and I really sit and listen. And as a self-advocate, right, I use the tools that I learned throughout the week to work with parents because my interpretation of the world is a lot different than parents of kids with disabilities, and it's a lot different than other folks in the realm who are working with folks with disabilities. And so for me, it was a huge game changer. It was one of the best trainings I did. And then the VIA, I also think that I still sit with my own VIA that I took. And I think about all of these things, and I wish I could meet the people who created it because I want to argue. Because some things feel innate, right? Some things to me is like, no, I would just do that. That's just what people do. But that's not true, right? Obviously, they have some sort of science, right? They figured some things out that's not in my wheelhouse. But really having the opportunity to look at my skills in such a different way, and seeing where things fall. Some things fell lower than I thought they should have, and I still think about it to this day. Like, well, how did I answer that question? Why is this strength lower than that one? And how could I, can they change? Will they change? And obviously they do change because you're in different places and you evolve. But it is something to just kind of circle back and think about as you navigate some of these spaces.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Um, Thank you, JD. Yeah, I think that's super helpful. Just to your comment about using the tools that using the activities in your space. I mean, I think one of the things I'll just say to you and to everyone on the webinar is we intentionally used kind of uh, open source tools so that people could take them back to their context and use them, right? And so it's been super funny, JD, over the years talking to you about the spaces that you use, like the leadership landmarks tool we use, and the ways that you kind of have adapted that for your specific context. And so, I mean, I think the point that makes for me is that like the tools are only as good as when they're taken off the shelf and when they're engaged in a specific context with a specific group of people. And so, I mean, I think you make the point about how this hyper-local focus, if the strategies don't work where you are, they're not good strategies. So, yeah. So I'm, as always, just grateful to get to do this with you, and I continue to learn from being in this relationship with you, and another reason I look forward to every June is the opportunity to hang out with JD and listen and talk together. So anyway, just grateful that you continue to say yes to doing this with us.
I also just want to hit one more part. I think the graphic facilitation, I didn't mention that, but that is a key highlight to be able to circle back and look at your stories and look at your words, be interpreted in such a different way. And this lives on forever, right? So I still look at what was drawn during my week. I look at what was drawn during other weeks. Actually, the landmark activity I stole, I got an opportunity to work with Inky Brittany, and she drew my landmarks for me. So I also, have my own piece of this graphic facilitated thing that I only learned about at AUCD's Leadership Academy. I hadn't seen it prior. So I think even being able to ingest or digest, I guess that's the wrong word, but digest the week, through graphic facilitation is such a key marker for me because it kind of just brings it home, right? Sometimes if you don't write it down, it's not true. Like I'm the kind of person, you told me to do something, if I didn't write it down, I'm really not going to do it because I don't remember. But so being able to see it in that way, and things presented to you in a multitude of ways, really create I think like a longer lasting memory. And so for me, I truly value the graphic facilitation of it all. She also draws my Christmas cards, y'all, every year. Um, because I just really believe in her talent and appreciate what she does.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, once again, you speak to the value of the relationships built over the week. That's great. That's awesome. Jackie, do you want to? Yep, I was going to just go there. So the second Leadership Academy alumni who's with us is Constance Alphonse, and Constance is with the uh, University Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities at Louisiana Health Sciences Center. She's in New Orleans, and just wanted to invite Constance as a more recent alum of the Academy to talk about her experience. And so, Constance, I'm grateful that you're with us and looking forward to hearing from you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Mark, Andrew, Andy, for inviting me. So I feel like I'm gonna be like a repeat of what you've already heard from Mark and Andy, and then from JD. But I truly, there are not enough good things to actually say about the experience and the program. It's more than just giving you the skills to lead in this area, right? Um, it's also helps you get in touch with you. and who you are, where you've been, and how those experiences are really shaping how you show up in this space. And so that becomes a really deep, I think, reflection moment throughout the week. Really that getting in touch with who you are. I can't, I, the week is just phenomenal. It really requires that pause, as Jerry called it, JD called it. She said, you have to, you pause. And I was so appreciative of that, along with the touchstones that we do every morning. And I felt like there was one that I think of the 6 or 7 days, I think I paused on it every day. It was one that I always was reflecting back on. And it actually kind of goes with me now. Um, Really to just kind of be present and be in that moment. We get so used to having these busy lives and go, 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 go. Um, and the academy really allowed me to show up on Sunday and be present. And there were things that tried to get in my way, but I was adamant that I was going to be present and I was present. And so I brought that back with me with really being present and what's going on. So at least once a week, I have to remind myself to be present. And then a second thing that I brought back that I think I use at least once a week is asking open and honest questions. Not having those assumptions or presuming, but really, JD talked about that listening piece, but listening and asking open and honest questions without the need to fix and problem solve, just truly to understand more. And so as I'm going through the year, we have our ally calls. And I so look forward to our quarterly calls that we have, our every other month calls. I could probably meet with them every week because it helps me be present and it really helps me pause. So I could probably have a meeting with them every week. And again, it's not about fixing in those calls. It's really about listening and it's about reflecting back. And then you ask if you want a resource, is it okay if I offer you a resource? So I feel like the Academy really works on building that language skill for you, of how to support with asking open and honest questions and really just how to listen reflectively without the intention of problem solving and fixing. Um, and I think the last thing I kind of want to touch on is they talk about the courage and renewal. And I think when I think about it, it really takes courage for you to show up and do the work. Given where we are right now, it just takes a lot of courage to come in every day and do the work. And so Matt and Mark and Andy, they give you the tools to do the work. So by the time you leave, that's where that renewal piece comes in because you're renewed to go back to your university and keep doing the work. And you have this group and those ally calls help you keep doing the work. And so you can't explain the experience, I don't think, to anyone because it's not when you show up, it's not going to be what you thought it would be. It's going to be much more than what you thought it was going to be. And I like JD said, she said she took something from the academy and uses it in her trainings. I'm our Lynn coordinator, so we do a where I'm from activity during one of the virtual sessions before you go to academy. So during one of those webinars, and I brought that back to our Lynn scholars this year. So we actually use this. So this is not just a go and you learn skills. You're going to be able to take it back, and you will leave renewed with a bigger network.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I'm glad that was recorded. Thank you so much. Yeah, Constance, I remember our conversations last summer about you preparing to take on a bigger role in Lend, right? And uh, us having sort of side conversations about kind of what that looked like and what the possibilities might be too. So like that wasn't even on the agenda for the Leadership Academy necessarily, but that connection was was important to me, right? That those conversations, I remember thinking I'm learning just as much as I'm more than I'm contributing here. So anyway, I'm glad that it has indeed been what has taken place, and that you're finding resources uh, in multiple places, but the Leadership Academy to support you in your work. That's awesome. Okay, cool. So just going to talk about the kind of applicant where we are in the application. So we posted the application on the Leadership Academy website back in December. The application deadline is going to be March 2nd, 2026. We review those applications and turn them around pretty quick. So initial acceptances, you'll hear from us, whether you're accepted or not, you'll hear from us, begin to hear from us around the 23rd of March. And then April 2nd, we'll have all the decisions made, and communication will go out to everyone who applied. At that point, you'll get information about kind of next steps. Yeah, that's where we are in the process. And okay, next slide. The week this year for the Academy will be June 7th through 12. And that in-person meeting here in Atlanta will happen here on the Georgia State University campus. Wait, I skipped. So in preparation for coming to the Academy, we schedule 3 kind of pre-Academy webinars to help you meet the folks you're going to be with in Atlanta. Those will happen in April and in May, in advance of the in-person time in Atlanta on the Georgia State University campus.
They'll happen in April and May of 2026.
Correct. Oh, yes, the year is wrong on that. How many times did I review these slides?
I know, I looked at it too.
Yes, well, April and May of 2026, there'll be 3 60 to 75-minute webinars that will prepare accepted participants for the work we're going to do together when you're in Atlanta, June 7th through 12th. And that's a Sunday through Friday. So we come in on Sunday afternoon. We begin on Sunday afternoon and evening in that first session with dinner together. And then basically, I have a slide about this, but the rhythm of the days is kind of a later start. So, gather for breakfast together. And then we finish, sort of start around 10, between 9:30 and 10 o'clock, and end by 5 or 6. So we don't have you going late in the evening. Part of that is so that you have opportunity to experience Atlanta. Folks have come back with restaurant recommendations for Andy and me from time to time, which is awesome. And then after the week of the Academy in September through April of 2026 is when your ally groups meet, and the window for your leadership coaching with your local coaches would be kind of October through May of 26. So
Actually, those will be through 27, which is really
that's right. Oh my God. Yeah,
hard to believe.
October of 26 through May of 27. Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, so next slide. This is just kind of some more detail about the week. We sort of begin every day with coffee and networking, but that first day we're asking people to arrive by around 3 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. The opening session at 4, and then conclude with dinner. We usually finish by 7:30 that first night, and then we have an optional session where people can come and preview the content that we're going to visit that day every morning at 8:30. start at 10 and conclude at like 6 o'clock. Um, on the 12th, we asked that when folks are making travel arrangements that they plan to that they begin to plan to fly out of Atlanta afternoon, kind of depart by 3 on that last day. We have breakfast every morning together. We provide lunch a couple of days, and then their dinner together on a couple of the evenings. We also, as part of the academy this year, have a field trip to some of the kind of pertinent sites in Atlanta planned, to the National Center on Civil and Human Rights. And so super excited. Andy and I did a little tour of the renovated National Center, and cannot believe how well the newly renovated space aligns with our curriculum. So, Constance, I apologize to you now because you didn't get to have that experience last year, because they were actually renovating the center when you were in Atlanta last year. But so that's a benefit of being in Atlanta as well.
Yeah, I was just thinking I should be able to come back again this year just for that experience.
Just come for the day, Constance. Sure.
I'm gonna have to see how I can work this out.
Okay, cool. Next slide. Yeah. So what you heard was on the green slides was JD and Constance talking about their academy experience and why it was important. We talked about the in-person academy schedule. We talked about the pre-academy webinars, which will happen in March and April of 26. We talked about kind of post-academy activities, both your ally calls, which will go through the next year, so through 26 and 27, and also your local coaching and the schedule for that. Yeah.
Okay, so who should apply and how do you apply? So we are, as you can see, we have had participants. Actually, we've had this slide's not totally updated, but it gives you a good sense. We've had 199 participants over the last 9 years, and folks from all across the nation, including the territories. So we've had folks from Samoa and Northern Mariana Islands and Guam, and I don't know, have we had someone from Puerto Rico? Yes, we've had folks from Puerto Rico too.
Yep.
So folks from Alaska and Hawaii, we really have been fortunate to have folks from all over the country. And so my first answer to who should apply is you should apply. Next. And we target having 24 participants each year. And we really value having a diverse participant cohort. So we want people who have different types of roles, different leadership experiences, who come from have different identities. We are wanting to target faculty and staff, obviously from the UCEDS and LENS. It's the AUCD Leadership Academy, but then also folks from the rest of the sort of disability networks. We've had lots of people from state councils of developmental disabilities. We have people from protection and advocacy organizations. We have had folks from other affiliated disability serving organizations, other community and university partners. And so, I think, what you can kind of take from that is if, regardless of your role or background or experience, this this academy can be appropriate and work for you. I saw someone sort of asking, about their sort of experience. And I think, generally we've had people with a wide range of experience, and the academy, because it meets people where they are, really works for a broad set of participants. Next slide.
Well, and Andy, all I'll add about that is just that because of the different locations and the different experiences of participants, it makes the conversation, it makes the learning so rich. And back to what Andy said about who the smartest person in the room is, right? The room is the smartest. And so what we have learned over time is that the conversation and the work that we do together is better when we have folks from a really wide range of experiences and um, you know people with disabilities and people who support people with disabilities and family members and folks from lots of different social locations. So we want um, a range of experience in the room. That's what I'll say.
Yeah. So there's an application portal that lives on Qualtrics. It's both on the slide and in the chat. Thank you, Jackie. And your completed application asks for a current resume or CV, a letter of support from a senior organizational or agency representative. So some person who's in sort of a leadership role within your organization who can speak to their support for your participation, and a 250-word biographical statement. Now, let me say a little, I can't remember if this is on the next slide. We have had people who have done that biographical statement via video or audio. So it's not necessary that if writing is not your preferred mode of communication, we're open, and accessible for other ways of completing that part. And I know that Mark in the past, and I see JD has made this offer too in the chat, have supported folks if they need coaching or support to complete the application. So the most important thing I think I would take from this is we do not want the application process to be a barrier to your applying for and participating in the Leadership Academy. So if you are experiencing a barrier in doing the application, please reach out so that we can support and facilitate you being able to apply for this experience.
Yeah. So the other thing in terms of talking about sort of barriers to participation, there is a registration fee for the week of $1,200. And that's part of the reason we want a letter of support from someone in an organization who's going to support you paying the costs of attending. We have been creative and worked with folks to find resources to help pay the registration fee. So if you are on the call and thinking I don't have that, I don't have that kind of resources to pay the registration fee, please don't let that be a barrier. Let's have conversation about how you might be supported to participate. The other reason we want a letter of support from someone in your organization is because the year-long academy, well, it requires you to be away from work for a week, obviously, and the year-long activities also require folks to be on ally calls and participate in other activities during the year. So we want folks in your organization to be aware that that it's going to require time not only in June but throughout the year. And we want them to say, yes, we want to invest in this person's uh, continued growth and leadership.
Well, I already kind of said this, but if you need any support in your application, just reach out to Mark or, as I said before, JD put her email there in the chat. The most important thing is we want you to apply. Next slide. So we discussed how you apply for the Leadership Academy, the components of the complete application, and what to do if you need support in completing your application. Next slide. Now is an opportunity for you to ask any questions that you might have about the Academy. Mark and I, as well as Constance and JD, are happy to answer questions. You can put them in the chat or speak them into the room. Thanks, Crystal. While we're encouraging you to ask questions, I'll just say, Mark and I were there when we were writing and putting this together. And every year we think, oh, it couldn't get better. And it just each year is such a gift to be able to participate in this process. So would this be appropriate for someone who's job hunting but doesn't have a current role lined up? Yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff here that would support sort of your discernment and purpose setting and sort of thinking about what your next steps are vocationally. What are the lodging options and costs? So we have agreement with a hotel. So little information about Georgia State. Georgia State is right downtown in Atlanta, Georgia. It's accessible via mass transportation, so by our rail system, as well as you could take a taxi or Uber from the airport. The interesting thing about that is that our campus is right downtown, so there's lots of hotels right near our campus. And we actually have had, we will have a hotel that's sort of our host hotel that typically we've used the Candler Hotel that is literally right on campus. It's a historic, very charming hotel. So that would be the sort of main lodging option, but there are other hotels that, if you wanted to sort of shop for a price point, you might be able to find, something less expensive. That said, I mean, it is downtown Atlanta. So, Mark, any other thoughts about lodging?
Yeah, as Andy said, we'll have a hotel block at the Candler. They historically have given us a really nice rate for participants for the week. But yeah, obviously very willing to help folks find make suggestions about other lodging options as well.
I mean, within a pretty close radius of where we'll be meeting, there are a lot of hotels. So we can, if you're wanting to kind of shop around, we can give you advice on stuff. Other questions? Okay, well, today this kind of gives you a sense of what we talked about. The folks will get the slides, right, Jackie and Elizabeth? So you have these slides to reference back, about both sort of the content and method of the academy, sort of what people have gained from the experience in the past and how to apply. And you're certainly welcome to reach out to Mark or myself or Jackie or Elizabeth, anyone from AUCD or from associated with the Academy. We're happy to talk to you about this. If you need assistance with cost, you know, Mark, said you could reach out to him. We can look at what our options are. Again, I think reach out to the agency or organization that you're associated with. Often, the USEDs or LENS or other disability serving organizations have at least partially supported, if not completely supported, their staff members and faculty and other affiliates sort of participation in this. But there may be additional sources that Mark and I can help you access. And Constance put her email up too.
Yeah, super glad to talk to you about folks we know in your states who might be good resources as well. So good resources to reach out to for advice and potential funding. So there is an email address for the Academy here at Georgia State. You can email me directly, or you can email the Academy email box. You can get information about the Academy on our website, which is cld.gsu.edu. And there's a phone number to call if you want to get someone on the phone and talk about it. So we really appreciate you taking the time this afternoon to join us on this webinar, and hope that we see your applications in the next little bit. And as Andy said, if there's anything we can do to support you as you're thinking about applying, we're glad to do it. And so
And
anyway,
we look forward to meeting you in June.
yes, indeed.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Andy and Mark. It was really informative, and I think there's a lot of great questions. Again, if you have any questions, there's a lot of email addresses to reach out for folks, a lot of encouragement. I will add those to the chat again as well. And if you have a few minutes, we also put an evaluation link for today's webinar. So if you could take a few minutes to do that, that would be terrific. And I hope you all are staying warm, and I hope you have a wonderful Thursday. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jackie and Elizabeth, for your support with this.